the Pakistani side had initial difficulties connecting the hotline due to connecting to the Indian side due to technical difficulties. The timing was then decided based on the availability of the Indian DGMO at 15:35 hours. You will of course appreciate that early on 10th morning, we had mounted an extremely effective attack on key Pakistani Air Force bases. That was the reason they were now willing to stop firing and military action. Let me be clear, it was the force of Indian arms that compelled Pakistan to stop its firing. As regards conversations with other nations, the message from India was clear and consistent, and exactly the same message that we were conveying from public platforms was the one conveyed in private conversations. It was that India was responding to the 22nd April terrorist attack by targeting the terrorist infrastructure. However, if the Pakistani armed forces fire, Indian armed forces will fire back. If Pakistan stops, India will also stop. This was also the message that was conveyed to the Pakistani side at the time of the commencement of Operation Sindoor, which was not heeded to by the Pakistani side at that time. It is natural that many foreign leaders who heard this from us would have shared it with their Pakistani interlocutors. Jessica, you had a question on IWT. The other day you saw that after the CCS decision, this Indus Waters Treaty has been put in abeyance. I would also like to take you back a little. The IWT, the Indus Waters Treaty, was concluded in the spirit of goodwill and friendship as specified in the preamble of the treaty. However, Pakistan has held these principles in abeyance by its promotion of cross-border terrorism for several decades now. Now, as per CCS decision that I referred to of 23rd April, India will keep the treaty in abeyance until Pakistan credibly and irrevocably abjures its support for cross-border terrorism. Please also note that climate change, demographic shifts, and technological changes have created new realities on ground as well. Kandirmi, you had a question regarding trade matters. From the time of Operation Sindoor commenced on 7th May, till the understanding on cessation of firing and military action on 10th May, there were conversations between Indian and US leaders on the evolving military situation. The issue of trade did not come up in any of these discussions.
Can you shed some light on that as well?
Manas?
This is Manas from PTI. US President Donald Trump, again, he claimed yesterday that he stopped a nuclear conflict between India and Pakistan. And, he stopped escalation and saved millions of lives through, by reaching out to both capitals. He even said that, in fact, he pressured India and Pakistan to just come forward for the cessation of hostilities, saying that if you don't do, then I will stop trade with both the countries. So can you please clarify whether he just reached out to us and asked us to stop? You have been maintaining that, in fact, the resolution was arrived at by the two DGMOs, but have you just protested at the US side for making these claims, which we consider are baseless?
Okay, let me take these questions. First, Aditya, your question. We have had several rounds of briefings, and in these briefings, we have also shared with you the kind of linkage we see between the perpetrators of the attack of Pahalgam, in particular the resistance front. Foreign Secretary in his statement also made very clear the kind of evidence that we see, and investigation is going on in this particular matter. You would have seen that TRF had taken responsibility, and then second time again, second day, twice they had taken responsibility, and thereafter possibly at the behest of their handlers they rolled it back. But TRF is one organization which is a front of the Lashkar-e-Taiba, and you would understand and perhaps be in the knowledge of it that we have been pursuing listing of TRF in the United Nations, by the United Nations Security Council, by the Sanctions Committee, UNSC 1267 Sanctions Committee. I'm not privy to what was shared 2 hours back, but for sure we'll update you on as to how the investigation progresses in this matter. Mega on UNSC 1267 Sanctions Committee. Yes, over the last 2 years or so, 23, 24, we have been sharing information with the United Nations Security Council, the monitoring team of the Sanctions Committee, as to why the terrorist TRF, which is the front for Lashkar-e-Taiba, should be listed as a terrorist entity. We will be also, in few days' time, we will be sharing more details in this regard, and hopefully Security Council 1267 monitoring team will take strong note of what we present, what we file, and take due action against that is required. Rishabh, on your question regarding the interview that the Pak Foreign Minister gave. In the last week, as a result of Operation Sindoor, Pakistan has seen its terror centers in Bahawalpur, Murudke, Muzaffarabad, and other places destroyed. You have been informed of it in several of the briefings that we've had. Thereafter, its military capabilities were significantly degraded by us, and key air bases effectively put out of action. If the Pakistani FM wishes to project these as achievement, obviously he is welcome to do so. Where India is concerned, our stand was very clear and consistent from the start. We would target terrorist infrastructure operating out of Pakistan. If the Pakistani military stayed out, there would be no problem. If they fired on us, we would respond suitably. Till the night of 9th May, Pakistan was threatening India with a massive assault. Once their attempt failed on 10th May morning, and they received a devastating Indian counter response, their tune changed, and their DGMO eventually reached out to us. I just referred to the timings, etc., as to when they reached out. In essence, India's position remained the same. Pakistan position changed on 10th May morning after its air bases were effectively put out of action. All you have to do is to look at who called who to negotiate the terms of the cessation of firing. By the way, we are living in a day and age where you have satellite pictures available commercially. I urge you to look at the satellite pictures of the sites which Pakistan says or claims to have attacked in India. Contrast it with the sites and places which we successfully targeted and destroyed. That will give you a clear answer. Claiming victory is an old habit. 1975 की बात यही थी, 71 की बात यही रही, 1999 करगिल वॉर में भी यही राग आलापा. तो पाकिस्तान का तो पुराना ये उनका ढोल बजाने का है, जो रवैया है, आलापने का रवैया है, ढोल बहुत पुराना है. परस्त हो जाओ लेकिन ढोल बजाओ. Rishabh, you also had a question regarding On that, I think there are two, three things there. There's talk of we saw some social media post about Egyptian, American aircraft, etc. But those questions are for them to answer, not for us. But on the nuclear, in the defense briefing, if you remember, our side made things very clear as to what was the target, etc. As far as your particular question, I think the Pak Foreign Minister also has made some comments on that. Manas, about nuclear issue that you pointed out. See, the military action from our side was entirely in the conventional domain. This was also made very clear in the defense briefing yesterday. There were some questions also which were asked. There were some reports, however, that Pakistan National Command Authority will meet on 10th May, which we saw, but this was later denied by them. Pakistan FM has himself denied the nuclear angle on record. So, Rishabh, that also answers your question. As you know, India has a firm stance that it will not give in to nuclear blackmail or allow cross-border terrorism to be conducted invoking it. In conversations with various countries, we have also cautioned that their subscribing to such scenarios could hurt them in their own region. Can we take more questions? Okay. There.
Good evening, sir. य-शहर from Sputnik, sir. Just a clarification. Secretary Baku Rubio tweeted that India and Pakistan had agreed to ceasefire as well as start talks on a broad range of issues at a neutral site. So would it be possible to get a clarification on this if we agreed to that? And sir, the second question is about India-US trade talks. India has formally notified the WTO proposing retaliatory tariffs against select US imports over Washington's tariffs on steel and aluminum imports. Would it be possible to get a clarification on this? And does it affect India's negotiating position vis-a-vis the bilateral trade agreement? Thank you.
Okay, Smita.
Smita Sharma here. I mean, the US State Department actually in the press statement of 10th May, it was in bold and headline that mentioned US brokered ceasefire between India and Pakistan. I'm just trying to understand if New Delhi actually rejected it outrightly, raised it with Washington DC then, that this framing was incorrect, or is it only now that India is making it clear that there was no US role in it? And just a quick question on whether there's any update on PK Sahu, the BSF constable, who has been in Pakistan captivity for more than 20 days now. Or he's been arrested there because he never crossed.
Swazri.
Mr. Jaiswal, this is Suhasini Haider from The Hindu. In continuation to Smita's question about whether India has raised with the US these clearly what you are calling false statements made by US President Donald Trump, that India did not broker, the US did not broker a ceasefire, that trade was not discussed. These are all things that have been said now on the record in camera. So have you raised this at any level? And similarly, yesterday at the MOD briefing, we heard them speak about the Chinese equipment, hardware support to Pakistan. I wanted to ask if this is something that is going to be taken up with China in terms of India and China's own bilateral relationship. So both of them, are these two things going to have any impact on India's relations with either the US or China?
Neeraj.
सर नीरज हूँ न्यूज 18। सर नीरज हूँ न्यूज 18 इंडिया से। आपने कहा कि कई अमेरिकी नेताओं की बात मिलिट्री जो कार्रवाई चल रही थी भारत की उस दौरान बातचीत हुई। प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी से किस अमेरिकी नेता की बातचीत हुई? क्योंकि मीडिया रिपोर्ट में आया है कि अमेरिकी उपराष्ट्रपति जेडी वांस ने उनसे बातचीत भी किया और यह भी अनुरोध किया था कि वो अपनी मिलिट्री कार्रवाई को थोड़ा कम करें, डी-एस्केलेट करें। और दूसरा सवाल यह है कि जब भारत ऑपरेशन सिंदूर में चल रहा था पाकिस्तान के खिलाफ, आतंकवाद के खिलाफ माफ कीजिएगा, तो बांग्लादेश में अवामी लीग पर बैन लगा दिया वहां की सरकार ने। भारत इसको कैसे देख रहा है?
Okay, first regarding your question about Secretary Rubio's comments, on that I have already spoken. I have told you how the understanding between India and Pakistan was bilaterally reached and what was the conversation that we had with other countries. On trade matters, I do understand that there is a proposal which has been made in Geneva. It has been made very recently, so I don't have further details on that, but for sure we'll update you with the matter as we progress with those negotiations. Smita, again, I have already answered those questions of yours when I talked about, the question of ceasefire as to who decided, what were the terms, when it happened, etc. So I would urge you to look at those comments of mine. I have told you that we have conveyed our position. I conveyed our position here on record, so I will request you to look at that. On the matter of PK Sahu, I don't have an update, so possibly we'll get you an update, but these are matters which pertain to the Ministry of Defence and they are looking into it. Again, Suhasini, on ceasefire, I've made India's position very clear, where we stand. So I would urge you to look at my comments. On the other question that you had, and possibly it had come up in the conversation or the press conference yesterday, there we have, I would say that we have obviously taken note of this. I direct your attention to the comments in the defense briefing about the extent of their effectiveness or otherwise. नीरज, आपके दो सवाल। प्रधानमंत्री की बात अमेरिका के उपराष्ट्रपति जेडी वांस से हुई थी और उस दरमियान जो बातचीत हुई थी दोनों नेताओं के बीच में, उससे आपको अवगत भी कराया गया है। जहां तक अवामी लीग की बात है, the ban on the Awami League without due process is a concerning development. As a democracy, India is naturally concerned at curtailment of democratic freedoms and shrinking political space. We strongly support the early holding of free, fair and inclusive elections in Bangladesh.